New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Welcome to Ministers Talking a weekly program where Rev BRZ and Rev Z and their guests chat about current affairs, world events, spiritual principles, and any old they want to talk about. Based on the New Thought philosophy and ancient wisdoms, Ministers Talking shares a visionary perspective of the evolving spiral called spiritual living. Join us each week as we explore the emerging paradigm of life on planet Earth and beyond.
There we are. Good morning, dear ones. Rev BRZ with you over here.
Reverend Michael from Salt Lake City over here.
Reverend Z right here.
And this is Ministers Talking Shit for November 21st. My God. I think it's the 21st. Is that the right number? Yeah, no, 22nd. Time has no meaning. It's Friday the 22nd. It's Ministers Talking Shit. And I know we're welcoming back a dear friend and now regular contributor to the program, Reverend Michael Benjamin. Reverend Michael, welcome back.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be back, everybody. I'm looking forward to participating today, and let's have a great day.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Going to be fabulous. And Z, you're in town. I don't know why, but I had you on my schedule as being out of town today, but you're here, and we love that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you got somewhere for me to be out, and you can, fly me there, I'll be there wherever it is.
Right. We do seem to be experiencing a little bit of lag between each other today, Z, just so you're aware on your side. So, okay. Folks, if you hear a couple of any odd pauses, that's just technology being technology. So, guys, I didn't say this in the pre-show, but it feels to me like we need some clown music. If we're talking about the news of the day and we're looking at the stories of the week and all I kept seeing was everything needed clown music. It's been a weird week.
Do you have clown music?
I do not have clown music easily handy.
Well, the music the clown music really is when you're looking at the current events, here on Ministers Talking Shit, we, like to talk about current events, but also link it to the spiritual stuff, right? To our ultimate reality. And what we're seeing right now is kind of a clown show. Because, we can see it coming. We've been down this road before. They've been telling us what's going to happen. All of the groundwork is being laid for a greed grab. And it's going to come from every direction. And there's going to be big events that they talk about. And every time that they talk about a big event, you got to follow the money because there's something going on behind the scenes.
Yeah. I mean, and I would agree, they got this Doge committee, which is Elon Musk's favorite electronic money. Yesterday, Bitcoin hit $98,000 for one coin. If anybody want to share a coin with me, I'll take it. I'll take a fraction. And the thing with these Bitcoins, as they say, there's only a limited amount, right? Which seems to be a problem already, right? That because there's only a limited amount, and they're just changing hands, that can get to be very, very tricky in terms of who has, that whole thing of who moved the cheese. The question will be who has the cheese of Bitcoin. And for Elon Musk, he wants to switch it over to Dogecoin, which is what that committee he's on.
Why not?
I've always I guess I'm not as smart as I like to believe, because I get the concept of coins and cryptocurrency, and I guess the basic concepts. But at a certain point, we're mining this stuff. And the guy that starts it all is a mystery and won't step forward and claim his work. And nobody really knows. So nobody really knows if this is a limited, like if there's only a limited number of, who knows? Who knows if there's only so much Ethereum in the world? Who knows if there's only so much? And that's the problem I've always had with it. And the industry itself is just full of hucksters and con artists and ripoff artists because too many people can't afford a fraction of a Bitcoin. So they're playing all these penny coins, and they're getting rug pulled, and people are losing tens and thousands of dollars. And some of it's crypto dollars and some of it's real dollars. And to a certain extent, call me really old on this one. that because the whole thing goes away if EMP hits tomorrow. Say goodbye to your Ethereum and your Dogecoin and your Bitcoin. If computers go out the window, none of that's going to be worth a damn. I got this piece of plastic that says I got 45,000 Bitcoins, and the guy down with the gas station is going to say, "Big damn deal. You got any dollars?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here's the deal. The possibility, I won't say possibility, the probability of computer systems or electrical systems or power systems that control all this going out is likely. When we see now that the solar rays coming from the sun, that's one of the biggest disruptors of electrical transmission systems, causes the northern lights to be seen in the southern atmosphere. That means they're putting off some big corona flares coming off that sun.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to jump one more on this, because I'm not so much worried about the solar flares as I'm worried, and not really worried, because I know it's all working for the highest and the best. But in the short term, the Russians would appear to be planning to disrupt a lot of cyber systems. We don't know yet who cut this internet cable in the North Atlantic Russian Sea, or wherever it was. Like,
I hadn't heard that.
Up in the Arctic Ocean, a major internet cable got cut. And yeah, we don't hear about it on this side of the world because it don't affect our internet, but a major internet cable got cut, and there are suspicions that it could be Russian actors that cut this massive underwater internet pipe. So we know they like to play in the cyber world. We know that our cyber security is not that strong, to be, from my perspective, from the stories we hear. I don't know what is really real, but like, I think that's, in some ways, I'm serious. If they shut down the internet, what happens to Bitcoin? What happens? If we got to live without our bank access, and we have to, for God forbid, get in our cars and drive over to the bank to deposit our check or get our money. In America, we're pretty safe in all that regard. You
Yeah.
poison pill our internet, and shit could get weird.
Yeah, I mean, when they start hinting of, I mean, you see the reality of how exponentially fast it can grow for certain people who are positioned in certain ways. And there's already hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars that have been sort of brought to the table for some, just based on the idea of a good idea, right? Like based on this, like there's no actual financials related to it yet. So it kind of like when DJT hit, they valued the company at whatever it was, 7 billion or 14 billion or some ridiculous amount of money, but they have negative they're actually losing. Yeah, they have negative assets. They're losing money. But what the public doesn't always follow is once they publicize a company and then they effectively sell it to the people, it's actually been monetized. This great idea has been monetized for the few. And then everybody buys in and brings it up to $30 or $40 a share. And then within a few weeks, it's down at 12, 13, 14. So they lose 75 or 80%, but it's divided out amongst millions and millions of investors. And there's no obligation to make that asset real. And so they effectively just make money. They just create money, like this Bitcoin idea, right? They just literally are creating a currency out of thin air.
Well, and you see it with when we get to these crazy situations where the government is running out of money and we're going to shut the government down because we got no money, or some situation like that. They just go and say, okay, we're going to release some more money, but you don't have any more money. How can you release more money when you don't have any more to pay the people? So now we got the Doge committee to come in and start cutting jobs, right? I forget the national debt is like some crazy $1 trillion thing, and I'm like, really? I can't even comprehend $1 trillion, right? And we just keep making more loans and borrowing more money, but borrowing it from where?
That's the value of being the world's #1 superpower. Nobody's gonna come in and really say, "Hey, America, you can't have 30 trillion in debt. You need to impose austerity." It's not likely to happen. Unless the world shifts, right? But right now, they have the ability to just continue to create money. But the point is, I just want you to observe, and I want everybody to observe, when Elon Musk goes from 300 billion today to, let's take a leap and say he's the world's first trillionaire in the next 4 years. I promise you, he will not be a happier guy. He's still going to be the same miserable guy in fear.
He's going to be the Steve Bannon of the second term. The guy that everybody thought was going to be the mastermind and save it all. And he's going to get run over and pushed out of office before he knows it. And if he's lucky, he doesn't end up doing a shot in prison for something.
Yeah.
Elon Musk?
Yeah.
Well, I've already heard a statement.
That's what happened to Steve Bannon, right? He was the golden boy. He had the president's ear. He was going to be the fixer behind the scenes that cleaned up the swamp, that did all this shit. And at the end of the day, Trump rolls him over, throws him under the bus. They run him out of town. And before you know it, he's up on charges and does a short stint in prison.
But see, that's just power to the core. Those guys don't care, right? I mean, he went to a posh prison.
Yeah.
And it was time for him to go in and come up with some ideas for some books, come up with some ideas to go on the speaking tour. And he comes out. It was Walt Whitman's on Golden Pond moment. He just go and do his thing, come back out. These guys don't care, and so when we begin to look at this cabinet, now we didn't beat around the bush, but let's get to the real meat of this thing. This cabinet that this guy got in place. First of all, I would like to say to all my Black African American community who voted for Trump, I don't know, hoping, thinking, conjuring, I don't know what you were doing, but for him not to have, and he still got a couple more pieces to put on the board, but I don't think any of those are going to be black. He has no blacks in the cabinet, right? Now, last time he had the good doctor there, Benjamin Carter was the HUD guy, but last time, was it Carter? Ben Carson, I'm sorry.
Carson, yeah.
But yeah, none so far. You only got like 4 or 5 more people, and I don't think any of those. Well, HUD is still there, so he may put another one in the HUD. But Dr. Oz, JFK, he now has Pam Bondi as AG, and I've heard this statement floating in the air, and I'll shut up, that Elon Musk is really effectively the VP, while they try to groom the other young man to be astute. I mean, the other young man, I can't even think of his name, JD Vance. He's a tech guy. He was put in place by the tech people in Silicon Valley, where he was before he went to the Senate. So now that, as you said, Michael, that sets up the money grab with the technology people as we begin to go more in space, more with electronic money, more with electronic surveillance, more with electronic. And that's the grab.
Absolutely. And I think actually, to take a leap, I believe a big part of it already happened. See, under Trump and his prior administration, they had several stimulus packages at the tunes of, many trillions of dollars, but they also eliminated appropriations committees and accountants and people to actually track that money. And so what I can add up, and I'm pretty lay in this category, I get it, but half of the trillions actually didn't hit the streets. They went somewhere else. So I think the reason why he's experienced so much loyalty is because money already hit offshore accounts and things of that nature. So he's got deep rooted loyalty because of the money that's already been in play. And it's going to happen. It's going to happen again.
And I just was reading something because I was following up on something you said, Michael, on the crypto stuff. Trump has already promised to create a national cryptocurrency reserve, and it says industry groups are also lobbying Congress to pass a regulatory framework that they say is needed to pull cryptocurrency into the mainstream of U.S. financial system. And once that happens, forget the guy that's over the Federal Reserve right now. He's fighting to keep his job. I said he ain't gonna step down. When they make that move to crypto, that job is gonna be elite. I mean, defunct. Nobody's gonna need it.
Redundant.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one I want. That's the one.
So, and I want to jump back into this right here, that because this is truly actually the supreme moment. I don't understand the crypto piece, but there are pieces that I can understand. And maybe you and each of you have that piece that's yours. And everybody out there watching has got the piece that's theirs. I think what this has done in some ways is it has scared the living shit out of the left. And there are people, and I find it interesting that over the last several weeks, this program alone, our numbers continue to climb, both live numbers and people watching this program afterwards. And And I think part of it is that we're not afraid to be with the fear. We gotta recognize there are a lot of people out there that are afraid right now. That's the truth
And
of
they
it.
should be.
And perhaps they should be. But we've got to make sure that this is that supreme moment to do the work. Right? People are going to blow up. I've been having it happen to me. People just boom, throwing hand grenades and lighting fires in groups and meetings and this and that. People are scared. People don't know what to do in many cases. And I think it's a delicate balance of the both and. How do we face what's in front of us? Face the fear that's in front of us. Face the reality that there are people who are going to use this philosophy for their own greed, for their own income. And we were talking about this at the dinner table last night. It looks like it's a done deal that they're going to dismantle the Department of Education, which means we're going to have no federal regulation or oversight on what states teach. But that doesn't mean that states are going to stop teaching. It just means states are going to determine what they want to teach more. Well, we might be a little late to the game, but the left, the moderates, the progressives, whatever, can start looking towards more in the street, real on the ground action, and go out and run for a city council, go out and run for a school board, go out and start working with who's ever already on the school board that aligns with your beliefs. Start figuring out who already is on the council. And I saw something, I think it was on John Oliver. Teenagers making phone calls to their senators. Now, come on, how many teenagers do we know that even think about using the phone to make a phone call, right? But they are. And I think there is a great opportunity for the truest of grassroots movements to rise up and say, this is what we do want. We might not get it immediately. They've got the hammer and the gavel and the sickle and the all ready to all prepared, and they got Project 2025 and they've got all their stuff in order, but it doesn't mean that all is lost.
No, you're absolutely right. In the spirit of, the New Thought teachings and principles, we are the loosely used term, but the church of what's happening now. And when we go into the what's happening now, we got to actually get there on a conscious awareness of this spiritual and ultimate reality, because when we do, we're going to realize wholeness in this moment. And nobody has the right to do that for you. Nobody has the right to take that away from you. And you have the authority over you. And we too will prosper, because why? Because the reality is, when life gives you lemons, right, you go down that path. And we believe in evolution, we believe in cycles, and there's different flows, and so there is no once and for all. And the greed grab that we're experiencing has been happening for thousands of years. So we can go ahead.
I see this comment from Kaleem. I hear the fear. Where's the spirituality? Well, I agree with you, but I want to make a point. I don't know where to put my attention if I don't know what's going on, or if I don't know what's going wrong. And so what you hear, or what you may have mistakenly heard as fear, is basically stating the fact. The thing that happens next is, will I, you, everybody on this call, and he who hears it later, will you pick up the mantle and go to work? It's not about fear. It's about letting people know and reminding myself that the atmosphere has changed. I live in the mountain area, and if you get at the base of a mountain and start breathing, and you go up one of these 14 footers and you can hardly breathe, you know the atmosphere has changed. And I got to start acting differently on top of this mountain than I was at the bottom of this mountain. And I need to be aware of what's possible, what could happen. It could be sunny at the base of that mountain, and I've done it. When I get to the top of that mountain, it's raining, it's snowing. Total different ball game I got to play now, right? And so that's what we are looking to do now, is to say, look, like, for example, off subject, the IIC, the International Criminal Court, just opened an arrest warrant for Netanyahu and his Minister of Defense, right?
Yep.
So there's certain places, supposedly, he's not able to go, right? And saying that to say things are happening globally. And to go out and be spiritual, which is, in my opinion, somewhat loaded now, right? Because if I go by the lake, I'm being spiritual. Well, okay, you might be reflective, no pun intended, by being at the lake and looking at the water, but that might not be being spiritual, in the sense that how do we cultivate an energy, a presence that looks at all life as valuable? And once I recognize that, what do I have to do to sustain that or maintain that or flip the script so that it doesn't go away?
Spiritual discipline, muscles, right? Exercising that muscle, being committed to yourself. I mean, ultimately, as we know, they are in position. It cannot be undone. We're going to see trillions of dollars manipulated, tens of trillions of dollars, right? And as you pointed out, there's things happening globally which are going to be real, going to affect things, and there's going to be a lot of disheartening things that happen globally as well. But ultimately, like what Robert said, there's truth to grassroots efforts. That the good news is one extreme always follows the next, and so it is true there. And so the fear, as Michael Beckwith talks about the current events of today, the fear is a prayer request. It is a prayer request. And it's not real in our hearts as ministers of, awareness, right? Awareness that there's a power and a presence, and it's living you now, and it's who you are. And being spiritual is not optional. It's your reality. That we can literally hear the prayer and prosper in our own world by being new thoughters and going with the flow.
Yeah. That term "new thought" is so powerful in my mind today, because, and I'll take this one on the chin, Kaleem. A lot of what we may have said this morning was old thought, right? But I think it was needed to state what may not be obvious, because there's always the saying, think globally but act locally, right? And Linda brings up how we think globally, be aware, but act locally. Linda is saying she's made her calls already to say, look, don't give this guy a clean shot to just put people in here. And that's where the real work, we have to have a new thought, not in terms of spirituality, in terms of everyday living, in terms of family life, friendship life, in terms of all life. We have to begin to understand that there goes one, there goes all. Now, there's some people at the top who may not believe that, but if they screw up everything, it's going to affect them. It's going to affect them. And so we have to be the sounding bell, if nothing else. Hopefully it's more than that, to say, at that, I forget that TV movie network, it said, we're mad as hell and we're not going to take it anymore.
I have to jump in because we always want to be careful of some of the phrases we use. And where goes one, we all go is been co-opted by the QAnon world. So
yeah. Well, they co-op all our stuff, so we just have to right side it now.
and I think, and again, that is part to my point. We can okay. The rules of the game are being changed.
Mm-hmm.
We got to play by the new rules.
Exactly.
You play in the NBA, there's rule changes every year. Sometimes there's little rule changes, sometimes there's big rule changes. You play disc golf, there's rule changes every year. You've got, sometimes they're big ones, sometimes they're little ones. And you've got to be able to adapt and change. So there's a greed grab going on. Let's get in line. Because doesn't mean I have to use it for the reasons you think I'm going to use it. But if I can make you think that I'm going to use it in the ways you want me to use it, I could still then go and use it in the ways I want. Mm-hmm. So let's get in line. Let's get in line and take some of this money. And again, to me, that's what if we act locally, thanks for putting those legs to it, Z. If we begin to act locally, to show, and maybe it's just show up and sit in on a council meeting in a prayerful, conscious state, and start to become aware of what's really going on and how things are handled. And if you've been doing that already, take it another step and run for a local position or office or council or something. But I think the biggest fear, if there is one, is that people are just going to sit and wait it out for 4 years.
And hope for the best.
Exactly. I did have somebody yesterday suggest that that all of the drag queens in America begin to visit the Capitol as often as possible and hang out in the men's rooms.
Oh my God.
Would that challenge those guys?
I've also seen a challenge for cisgendered people to go flood the bathrooms of the Capitols as well.
Yeah. They've already made some rules, right? For who can use the bathrooms or whatever.
They're working on it. And and I know that every one of us, all right, not every one of us, but I would have to think a huge majority of Americans have used a transgender bathroom this year in the past 11 months. Because if you got up on an airplane and went to the bathroom, guess what? You used a transgender bathroom. Get over yourself.
Yeah, you go into Starbucks and it's got a picture of a man and a woman on the door. Like basically the sign says bathroom, right?
Well, and look at it this way. How many times, and I'll say I did it, you've been to a place, you had to go to the bathroom, someone was in the men's bathroom, the women's bathroom was empty, and you had to go right then. You went into that women's bathroom, locked the door, did what you needed to do, come on out. You clean up yourself if you need to, and you come on out.
Well, interesting. We were at Unity Village, and we were at I think it was in the Fillmore Chapel building. The restroom there was nicely redone, and it was an all-gender facility. And I did make observation that it felt great to have total privacy and the door from top to bottom and nobody looking under or over. And, this common area with hand washing facility. And, it was like they're leading the way. Right? As far as I can tell.
Yeah, exactly.
We can, Robert.
Go ahead, Z.
Yeah, one thing I want to just highlight before I forget. You talked about the game that's being played, right? And the rules changes. And I agree 100%, but I want to make everyone aware that Yes, the rules have changed. But the basketball court that Naismith came up with is the exact same court. They've moved some lines around and they've made some adjustments on if I shoot from this line, I get that. If I shoot from that line, I get. But the court itself is the same. So let's remember that the playing field is the same. The rules have changed. So what I need to begin to really understand and master is the playing field. I need to understand where I am on the field at all times. What can I do in this region that I can't do in this region? Or begin to stretch the boundaries. Steph Curry is a prime example. Steph Curry can shoot the ball efficiently and effectively from half court. That used to be a trick shot. This dude can do it consistently from half court.
Right.
It's crazy. Falling out of bounds backwards, too.
Yeah, right.
But it's just a shot.
With one arm tied behind his back, no less. Yeah.
And that's that's the consciousness that that's the platform that he's operating on. At the end of the day, I'm going to look at the basket and I'm going to get a shot off.
Yeah.
And what's the difference if it's 15 feet or 27 feet? Like he's man enough to flick the ball like that, right?
That is, Michael, I suggest what you just said. That is the new thought, is to have no limits within the range of what I'm doing. He looked at it and said, look, y'all say I can't do it, but I say I can. So I'm going to do what? I'm going to lift some weights. I'm going to practice. I'm going to do what I need to do to get my focus, my vision. And guess what? As you said earlier, Michael, as we get that spiritual discipline and practice in, anything and everything is possible. He's rewritten the whole game of basketball single-handedly by himself.
Yeah.
And we are rewriting the future of American politics, of human experience, of the New Thought movement. And we're not doing it alone. We don't have to do this. We don't have to do this alone. We don't have to be a one in 5 million like Stephen Curry is, right? We can be who we are in community. I've been saying this a lot in the last 2 weeks. I think the coming years community is paramount. Community. And not just, and digital is great, but actually having physical community, people you can pick up the phone and call, like not just our senators, but people we can call, people we can meet with and sit down at a coffee shop. And whether they believe like we do or whether they don't believe like we do politically, let's start having that sense of community that we are all humans. We are in this together. And together we can weather any storm.
And that is such a good point, Robert. The reality is, work with a mentor, work with a practitioner, sit with somebody like in The Science of Getting Rich from Wallace D. Wattles, right? He specifically said, tell few what you're doing, but have your few, right? Like you got to have your few to work with, somebody that can hold your highest and best in your unlimited reality in heart and be in the creative process with you and not contaminate your field, because fear really is false evidence that's appearing real. So if you're experiencing fear at this time, the question is, what is it that you're fearing? And you'll begin to come into the awareness that what you're desiring is already available to you. And nobody can take that away from you. But when you're thinking too much, when you're out of balance and you're thinking a little too much about the government and what they're doing and what they're doing, and ultimately you kind of feel that the government is your source of supply, you have now put things out of order. But you have the power to put it back in order. And it's not your everyday friends who are running in fear that are going to help you get there. So I encourage you to team up with one of your local practitioners and or connect with one of us here, because I'm sure you can send messages to Robert and he can introduce you to me, and I do private practice.
Oh, yeah.
And so I am available. My wife is available. Robert's available. We know hundreds of people that are available to sit with you or to be with you at a local coffee shop, because it is through the local that we affect the field.
Z just dropped a chat in the private chat box here in the back office, and we've only got another minute or so to go before we need to get out of here today. So share the good news, Z.
Yeah, well, the capsule, and I know, and I'm, as we just talked about Elon Musk and having worked on space program for a few years in my early career, I do want to. I'm going to commend that team that sent the largest rocket ever into space, to usher in this whole idea. Here again is this idea of having a bigger preview of the world. They just had the new UFO, or whatever the new word is for it, in Congress about people not from here, or entities not from here, that they are real, and they've got all kind of things from the spectrum to they got a ship to they got an entity. But the idea that a group of people, this is where diversity and shared knowledge and working together comes in. To get a group of people from all walks of life, all different perspectives, working for a common goal to launch the largest rocket ever built successfully, and to bring it back down without losing it, is an amazing feat. And imagine what we could do as a people if we come together to come up with the world that works for all, that says, just play it. Let's figure out what our part is and play it. Everybody will benefit, whether we're dealing with dollars or Dogecoin or Bitcoin. It won't matter, because we'll understand the idea of exchange and laws of correspondence and rhythm and vibration and all those things that operate this universe. It'll be a great day.
Amen. Beautiful. Folks, that's about all the time we've got for this morning. We want to let you get back into your day and invite you to stay with us throughout the day here on the New Thought Media Network. Get Rich One-on-One with Sekou Wright starts in just a few moments. Morning prayers are at 8:15. 8:30 is the morning sip with Rev Melissa. 9 o'clock, Emma Moreno and Spanish language programming. Spanish language prayers are at 9:30. The Joy Show with Reverend Barbara is at 1 o'clock Mountain Time. I'll be back at 5 with the good news. Pastor Michael's here with the Fireside Chat at 6. It's a busy day here on New Thought Media Network, and we wrap it all up at 8:15 with our evening prayers as well. Thanks for being with us. Thanks for being a part of what we're doing. Please feel free to let your friends and family know, let your neighbors know what we're doing here on New Thought Media Network. And join us again next Friday for more of Ministers Talking Shit. Until next time, we want to wish you peace and richest blessings. Bye now.
And thanks for listening to this week's episode of Ministers Talking. We'll be back again next week with more commentary on current affairs, world events, and any other our ministers want to talk about. And if you found value here, please share our with your friends. Until next time, peace and blessings.